Hey there, Titan fans. It's a special night here on the Attack on Titan After Show on AfterBuzz TV. Such an epic conclusion. This episode was all about truth and reflection. Was the truth that was hidden in the basement really a good thing? And our scouts finally make it to the ocean? We have so much to talk about, so don't you go anywhere.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey there, Titan fans. It's a special night here on the Attack on Titan After Show on AfterBuzz TV. What an epic conclusion. Tonight's episode was all about truth and reflection. Was the truth that was hidden in the basement actually a good thing? And our scouts finally make it to the ocean. We have a lot to talk about, so don't you go anywhere.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
All of you Titan fans out there, thank you so much for tuning in. It was a big episode, an episode that tied together a lot of the loose ends we have always been waiting for. I'm Veronica Valencia, and of course, joining me to my left, we have...
Hey guys, it's Jamie Gray.
What's up, everyone? It is Oliver Drennan.
Unfortunately, our other host, Carrie, could not be here tonight, but she is with us in spirit, and I'm sure enjoying this episode as well. Coming up later in the show, we are going to be talking all about the truth, the harsh truth brought on by Flock, as well as the truth being told to the people. How are they going to go about it? What is their next objective? We're also going to be talking about Eren and his memories, trying to keep Historia protected, as well as we have some great news regarding next season and where will Titan live studio-wise. But before we get into any of that, Jamie, Ollie, our thoughts on this episode?
Wow. Okay. Well, I will say, overall, it was a good episode, but I was first shocked. I did not expect this to be the very last episode.
Right.
So I was like, wait a minute. So I think for it to be, the season finale, it wasn't, as action-packed or as, thrilling as I would have wanted it to be, but was it still good? Yes. Eren with his memories, and just everyone feeling the aftermath still of Erwin's death and more. So I thought it was a good episode, but I'm excited for season 4.
I agree that I was shocked I expected 2 more episodes. I don't know, I guess I'm just out of the loop, but the season finale kind of makes sense looking back, how things were kind of wrapped up in a sense, and we also have this really weird, bittersweet ending to the episode of how, we'll talk about it clearly, but it was very... in a nutshell, I just love the fact that our characters had some peace after this long, crazy season. Despite the bittersweetness they may have felt, they got to the ocean, and it was so.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that yet, and it was so refreshing.
Yeah, refreshing.
It was. I like the fact that you brought up refreshing, Ollie, because I feel like as a viewer, we've kind of been hit the last couple of episodes with, a lot of information. It hasn't been super action-y or jam-packed with stuff like that, and so we've kind of just been like, oh, this is really great. But, we really, as an audience, I feel, haven't needed a moment to just kind of, rest. Mm-hmm. But our characters, for sure, needed a moment to catch their breath after after the battle they just had, after learning all of this crucial information about what's outside of the walls. So for them, it was probably nice to kind of have this brief moment of peace is basically kind of what it was, that second half of the episode. So, I really enjoyed it. I agree with both of you. I felt like I was expecting 2 more episodes. I don't know where in my head I thought there would be maybe 13 in the second part of the season, but I was way off. So I was like, wait, what? No, more. Give me more. But of course, in Attack on Titan fashion, we have to wait over a year. So
Great.
It's great. So let's jump right into this episode. So, of course, we kind of get a brief, summary of what happened. Last episode, we get it. They found the books. Eren is, concerned about Historia's well-being, basically thinking, oh, if a royal comes in contact with, a Titan serum, they can use her as a weapon or whatever. So let's talk about the decision kind of to bring the truth to the people, because there was clearly some... difference of opinions between the rest of the military and between General Pixis and Historia. What do you, and in the end, obviously, they chose to tell the people, but what do you guys think? Was that a good decision, or, would you have been hesitant as well, or were you all for it?
I would have totally been hesitant. I didn't, I was hoping that they would just hold back just a little bit until, you know, everyone was able to come to grips with everything more. Like, you're still mourning Ermin's death. You're still, you know, Armin is still getting used to even being a Titan. It's just so much going on. I didn't think it was necessary for the people to know all of that information just yet. I feel like it's almost jumping the gun. We still don't know what's going on with Zeke and all of that. I think just wait and then see what happens. Mm-hmm. You know.
I think that it's a situation where you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Mm-hmm. So it almost... the people are still going to be anxious regardless of whether or not they have the information. You know, like, now that they know, it's like, the truth hurts. But it's like, oh, I know the truth, I'm still anxious. If I didn't know the truth, I'm still anxious.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations that I felt like, you know.
Yeah, there's really no win-win for them in this case because like you were saying, Jamie, there's so much, they can tell them what they know, but of course, if people believe it, they're going to have more questions, they're going to be more skeptical, they might not be as willing to go along with protocols of what may ever happen because they think they know it all, or some people might not believe it and just be like, you're lying to us, there's no way that this is the truth, and that's kind of basically what happens. So it was kind of a lose-lose regardless. But I understand their idea of wanting to be transparent, especially with Historia, you know, not wanting to be that kind of ruler. Like, she set out specifically to be a different kind of ruler than the previous kings, like not keeping the people in the dark.
Because then the people might revolt if they don't know what's going on.
Especially her being a woman, too. You just never know.
Yeah. So, like, I greatly appreciate the fact and respect her decision for, you know, wanting to be as transparent to the people as possible. Like, this is why she's our queen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for
queen.
Sure. And so we basically kind of learned that they do decide to tell everyone about the truth that they found in the basement, and some people believe it, some people don't. I don't know, just out of curiosity, if you were these people, would you believe them, or would you think it's some kind of, like, propaganda they're throwing at you?
Yeah, I don't think I would have believed it. You know, I think, but at the same time, it's like, if you're seeing Titans every other month or every 5 years, you know, you might just believe anything because that is a sight to see, you know? So I don't know. I think initially I wouldn't want to believe it.
Yeah. Well, it's basically if someone were to come up to you and say, oh, by the way, you could potentially be a monster, because that's how they view Titans. They view Titans as monsters. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that, you know, their particular race can become these Titans, they're like, oh, by the way, yeah, you're a monster. No one wants to believe that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So...
I don't know. I totally agree. Yeah, I wouldn't want to believe it either, but I think just after everything they've seen, you know, it's pretty believable.
It is, definitely. So after we kind of get this, like, little moment of Hanji and Levi just kind of assessing the news that's going on, we go into basically what's like a funeral / also award ceremony, like a mixture of it.
Very confusing.
It's a nice take, because usually funerals are very depressing, so why not?
At least it wasn't black, you know? I like the olive.
But where was the reception? Where was the food?
I know. Hors d'oeuvres and meatballs, little mints with the colors.
But if I was like one of the, 9 people who survived, I don't know how I would feel. Like, should I feel happy that I am being given this really recognizable honor, or should I feel sad that we're also, you know, all my comrades died in the same mission that I survived? Like, there's a guilt there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, for sure. I could totally, well, no, I cannot see how they would feel. But yeah, I thought it was definitely hard to watch. And I think I would have thought that maybe they would have been a little bit more sad and emotional, but they just seemed kind of stoic. And there was just like a select few that spoke their mind, which I also appreciated.
Like Flock.
Yeah, when he was like, listen, why Armin? And I totally get, at first I get it, and I get where Armin might be like, damn, like, don't look at me like that, but it's kind of true. It's kind of true.
Well, let's talk about that, because, Ollie, I don't think you were here for this episode when they chose Armin to get the Titan serum. And this is obviously something that we talked about in a previous episode of kind of like, oh, well, who would you choose, Erwin or Armin? And for us, Jamie, or like even for us as audience, as well as Ollie, we've heard this question before, and it's kind of being brought back, and so it's almost kind of like, okay, well, why are we revisiting this? I thought this was already a discussion that we had. But why do you think we are revisiting this question? And then, Ollie, I'm just curious about your take. Like, who do you think it should have been, Armin or Erwin?
Well, that was like weeks ago, but I think Armin really stepped it up, and so that's why I was kind of team Armin. I know he kind of backtracked in a previous episode, kind of, and it kind of annoyed me, and it kind of annoyed me in this episode too. And I was like, I thought we were past this, but I think he needs character building, and I think that was a huge development, and that was a huge choice that was made, and I was here for it. So I hope that he progresses even more, but that also scares me because now that he is a Titan, I think that it's almost as if they're leading this up to some kind of like, I don't know, some kind of sacrificial lamb. I don't know. I feel like he's going to do something big in next season. I know that's prediction-wise, but I think that's why maybe we're kind of... Because to me, he's always been like an underdog.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he has something to prove. And he's been proving himself in this season, the second half of the season. So I think he has even more to prove moving forward and to kind of prove the haters wrong. So, because I was never honestly a fan of Armin. I'm saying that right now.
I don't like punks. I can't with anime and like the people that don't know how to stand up for themselves. But he proved himself,
right?
You know, over the season. I think when he showed his receipts, saying, "Well, when Aaron said that on behalf of Armin, like he's done so much, give him a chance." You know, it's his redemption.
I was so proud of him. And he earned my respect, and it's been a while. You know, we're going on the journey with these characters, and
exactly.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Miles in the chat who's saying Flock was out of order. He is still a recruit. That does bring up a very good point. I let's, you know, kind of get into Flock's whole brutal honesty. I know what this episode is all about, truth, and is the truth the good or is it bad? Flock was just kind of really putting it out there. So let's start with his truth to Hitch of like, you know, they're probably trained to be like, oh, you know, went out very noble, Marlo did a great job, you know, all this stuff. But then he hits Hitch with the hard truth of like, you know, but he regretted to be there. Basically, you know, saying here's the brutal honesty. We could say he was a hero. He definitely was. But it's not like this is the path he wanted or chose for himself. If we were Hitch, do you think you would have appreciated that? Or would you kind of wanted to live with the memory of Marlo?
I think the memory, because it's just kind of like putting salt on the wound, you know? I felt like it was just also too soon, you know? Maybe say that a little later, not at the actual ceremony. So a lot of times when people die, people just say the dumbest things to the person who's grieving, so yeah.
It just kind of showcases the loss of war. You know, you're going to lose people through war, and this is like a huge war that's going to be continuing on. I don't know how much longer, but it's also... There's no use crying over spilled milk. Don't get angry at something that I always kind of like live by. Don't get angry about things or sad that you can't necessarily change. If it's done, it's done, you know?
Yeah.
Like if someone's died, like they're not coming back, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like this one was kind of a tricky situation because a part of me was like, yes, Flock was definitely out of line because, you know, he hasn't been in the same situation as the rest of the recruits. You know, he hasn't been in the same group as Connie, as Sasha, as Jean, as, you know, Aaron, Mikasa, and Armin, and all of them who have basically really just been working for this moment. He kind of came out of nowhere in the last couple of episodes. Granted, not nowhere. He's been with the scouts for a while, but in terms of this group, he really came out of nowhere. So a part of me was like, yeah, dude, you're out of line. You don't know what this specific group of scouts have been through.
Right.
But then again, I look at the situation, I'm like, I totally understand, you know, you want transparency. If someone is going to sign up to be a scout and dedicate their lives to saving the people and putting their lives on the line against Titans, you'd want to know, right, of like what the job really entails, not kind of get into it on a false promise or a false hope. So for me, I feel like there's two ways you could really go with his kind of moment, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. A part of me is, like I said, like he's kind of out of line, but he's also, I can see where he's definitely coming from. And
I just like that he spoke his mind, you know? Like, I granted, like, this is not the time to hear it, but even, you know, I like to kind of sometimes go into the previous episodes, but even when the owl was saying to Grisha, like, you know, Grace did have a point being mad at you, and I think even with people being mad at Armin for being chosen over Erwin, they have a right to be upset at that too, and I like that they showed that. It's just real.
Yeah. Flock brought up a good point of like, oh, I'm not the only one who thinks that Erwin should have gotten the Titan serum. He kind of makes a point to say that everyone who's read the report thinks so too. Do you think that he was really being honest, or was that something he kind of just spoke out of like passion, like, oh, this is how I feel, and I'm just going to back it up with this?
I think just from passion.
Like,
yeah.
He loved
You can tell he was obsessed, but at the same time, here's how I felt when he was like blaming Connie and all of them, saying, "Oh, well, you know, you guys didn't even step in front of Mikasa and Aaron. Neither did you really. You said like a sentence or two.
Yeah, you didn't really step up to the plate either, dude.
Exactly.
So it's like if you didn't really put your foot down either, so the decision wasn't made really by Aaron. It was ultimately made by Levi. If you have an issue, take it up with Levi.
Yeah. Which he looked really good in this episode.
Oh my gosh.
When he was like just standing up against the wall.
I feel like we haven't seen Levi in a minute. I do want to shout out the chat. International Lesbo said Isayama said that he made Flock to be a character that represents the general public. So that explains some of his disposition in this episode.
That's good. I like that. Of just kind of getting those two different types of perspectives, because for so long we've only really seen the perspective of this particular group of scouts. And so I like bringing in that fresh perspective, that fresh face. So let's dive into kind of what happens after this, where we kind of we get this like time skip, and also Aaron's kind of memories with the awards. But before we get into that, there's so much to explore beyond the wall, and at AfterBuzz, there's so much to explore here. And Ollie will tell you more about that.
Yes, everyone out there, we love you so much, our anime fans, our animation fans. You guys mean the world to us, and you are just as much a part of the show as we are. And we do have a live chat if you're tuning in, but if you're not, that's totally fine. But what you should do to help us out, because we love you guys, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, because the other ones don't work. 1, 2, 3, 4, those are broken. And five is the only one that works. And if you do that, maybe we will shout you out on the show when we come back next season, because it's the finale, unfortunately. But continue talking with us. We love it. Comment, rate, subscribe, share on Facebook with your friends, or on Twitter, or on Instagram. Why not?
Anywhere.
Just share the love of anime and Attack on Titan, because we really, really love this show, and it's so bittersweet that it's ended right now.
I know.
For now. But until then, give us that 5-star review. Please.
Yeah. And were there some people you wanted to give, some special fans you want to give some shout-outs to?
Were from YouTube, and I just want to say thank you so much for commenting. Kyle Thomas, Brian McClure, I'm so sorry, I can't talk. Shiny Buster Baby, I love that name.
Me too.
Factual Opinion, love it as well. Oh, Iconic Player One, these are some really good names.
Creative.
And That Random J, and K Yas 13212 on YouTube. So thank you for commenting with us. We love keeping the discussion going week after week.
Yes, we really do love the discussion. We love the fact that you're tuning in week after week. We totally see you. Ollie just gave some shout-outs on YouTube. We never forget about the people on iTunes. I just want to give a quick shout-out to Hita de Grace, who has said, I started watching the show when it came out. However, I stopped after a while because things got so hectic, and now I'm back and enjoying it even more. We are too, and we're so glad that you are tuning in with us, as well as HANXTHRE. I'm sorry, I will try my best to pronounce that, but shout out to you, as well as a shout out to Attack on AfterBuzz.
Oh.
So getting a little creative here, which I really like it. But for real, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. We really, really appreciate it. This season, we know that sometimes you can get lost with a series that is split up like this, so thank you so much for coming back to AfterBuzz and talking Attack on Titan with us. We really, really appreciate it. All right.
Yes.
Let's kind of dive into the part of the award ceremony that I found very interesting. When Aaron goes to kiss Historia's hand, and we get these flashbacks, which we started to see in the last few episodes of getting the flashbacks from Aaron. That's probably Grisha's memories that he's starting to resurface. And he basically sees Grisha begging the royal family to stop the Titans, and he reveals himself. What did we think of this kind of reveal?
It was a little overwhelming at first, too, just even seeing it from Aaron's perspective, because I'm just like, dang, like, he's seeing everything. He's seeing how Faye died. He's seeing, just all of these things, and I can only imagine it through his eyes. So I think it's just all unfolding, but I would just say it was exciting and overwhelming.
And I also just like that he doesn't have to read.
Yeah.
I remember it's just everything's making sense now, because I remember last couple episodes we were wondering how the heck is he getting this information all of a sudden, and now that we are getting he's getting the memories of everything, it makes sense. So it's nice that he doesn't have to read.
Exactly.
Necessarily. Okay, he has to read some things, but
Yeah. I found this one really interesting because I kind of felt that maybe Grisha he was obviously asking the royal family pleading for them to take to stop the Titans before the people within the walls get killed. You know, he even made a point like my son, before my wife, they get killed. And, you know, he knows the Marleyan agenda because that's where he came from. So a part of me was like, wait, was the royal family at that time complicit in kind of letting everything happen? Because, you know, the king didn't want any violence. He kind of just wanted things to go as things went. But, you know, that's not always the best route of action if, you know, you see this attack coming.
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of the impression that I got, that they were just kind of complicit in letting it all happen, which is really unfortunate, because if they knew, they could have stopped it, or, you know, did something about it before it all happened.
I'm just wondering if, like, the time, because I'm still stuck on how the owl Aaron knew about Armin and Mikasa. So I wonder if, like, this whole time length of how that's, like Carrie was saying it yesterday, how it's not linear. I wonder if, like, the past or the present is communicating with the past by any chance. Have we kind of, like, talked about that at all? Or?
I don't think we have, but do you want to expand on that?
No, but I just...
No! You'll have to do the next season.
But what I mean is kind of, like, how has that not been, like, addressed? You know, because how would he know about two people that aren't born yet unless he's getting these emotions from the present? You know, I don't know.
You just gave me a theory that I'm going to wait for predictions. But I'm very...
Because I feel like no one's talking about it, and it's kind of making me anxious. So I'm sorry to kind of change the subject a little
it's
bit.
Totally fine.
So, I don't know. It's weird. And I feel like that's why I was like, oh, it's a paradox. So it's just mind-boggling for me to kind of digest that still from the last episode.
Yeah, no.
So I apologize.
For sure.
But I'm interested in your theory.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a good one. Let's kind of cut to... So we're going to get into the second part of the episode after kind of the eye catch scene. But there was a very interesting quote that was in there that I kind of just wanted to ask you guys about. Towards the end, it said, however, is a display of power enough to frighten the world our only method of doing so? Basically, them referencing trying to survive, which is a really good point. Like, you know, right now they're kind of thinking of, oh, we really just have to, you know, put on our big boy pants and, you know, show our power in order for people to kind of leave us alone. But that's not, you know, that's not what they want to do. They want to live in peace, basically. What did you guys think? Do you think that there's clearly another way to do this, or is right now action what they need to focus on?
At first, usually I would say action just because we haven't seen enough action, but I feel like, no, they need to really come up with the plan. I just, you know, figure out how are we going to use Armin, how are we going to use Aaron, how are we going to, you know...
I'm very curious on how they're going to use Armin in this next season.
Me too. And I'm wondering how it's going to affect him. I don't know. Some part of me, like, wants it to be good, but part of me... I'm going to add this to my predictions later, but it's going to be very far-fetched as usual. But yeah, I'm wondering what exactly is going to happen with them and his story and all of them, so.
I mean, this might be a prediction, but I'm going to say it now.
Okay, just do it.
I'm very curious if Armin is, you know, if he's going to be fighting out of a place of guilt whenever he becomes the Colossal Titan. If he's always just going to be fighting because he's like, I have to prove that I was the right one to get this second chance and not Erwin.
And that sucks because it's like he had already risked his life.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he did it in such a phenomenal, awful way. You know, but it just sucks that it's like no one really saw that except Aaron and like a few of the others. I wish that, you know, I wish that they would give him a little bit of a break.
Yeah, he needs more credit. He has done a lot for the Scouts. So let's flash forward to, it's basically a year later, you know, they've kind of had this peaceful time. They were able to get all of the Titans out of the district, all without them, and now everyone can return to their homes, and it just seems like this very kind of lovely moment of peace. Did we kind of like that this was how it was concluding, kind of peaceful in a sense? I mean, we're gearing up for more, but, like, this particular episode was like, let's end somewhat on a peaceful note.
I think it was important because I always am kind of holding my breath when I watch this show, and I like it. But it's nice to breathe and to have these characters, to feel their kind of, the sanctuary that is being able to breathe and being able to kind of not be on edge with the Titans in the war and fighting and their comrades dying and whatnot. And I just loved how they had time to reconstruct not only themselves, like mentally, physically, but also kind of like the town and whatnot. They were making like elevators and whatnot, and that was really cool, and that's important. So it's nice that not only are these characters being constructed on, for lack of a better term, but like also we're getting all this new technology as well to help, us with the war and just protecting ourselves and whatnot. So I just thought it was a nice ending, despite it kind of like, I want a couple more episodes.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was a nice ending, but I also thought it was bittersweet. It was like they finally get to see the sea, something that they've wanted to see forever, and I could just feel and see the exhaustion in Aaron.
Yeah.
Just when he was reaching out, I was just like, I just hope there is a happy ending and that it's all worth it. Like I actually, because it's like we've been rooting for the underdog the entire show, and I'm just hoping that they get everything they're looking for real.
Yeah, for sure. You want to know it's been a year? My hair's longer. I love that. I was like, time must have passed. You didn't get a haircut. Great. Did anybody? What were you gonna say? Sorry.
Oh no, just like I did mention that it was kind of bittersweet because Aaron. I don't know if you were about to say this, but what was his line? I'm sorry, I forgot it because
something about freedom. Like we can
freedom.
Finally,
But basically, we made it to the sea, but are we just gonna have to keep killing and fighting to get that freedom to finally end the war? Exactly.
It's
they're so young,
and that's why it's so bittersweet. It's like they made such an accomplishment, but like, and it was a victory at the end of the day. But still, is this victory going to lead to the end of all of the stress of the actual war? Did this little battle really mean something?
Yeah. Well, we can actually talk about how Aaron has kind of changed with with learning this information. Aaron was always very driven by his mission to, stop the Titans and to kind of bring peace and to, essentially he has the Attack Titan, which whose whole mission is to try and restore freedom and to fight for freedom and all of that. So it makes sense that that's kind of Aaron's mission. But in this last scene, you could tell that he has really changed, and just basically kind of everyone is excited about the ocean and they're trying to just take in this victory, but of course Aaron's already thinking 10 steps ahead, having to hold in the idea that he can't tell anyone about Historia because they don't know what they're going to do to her, but also like, I can take this victory, but I also know that there's no freedom beyond the walls. That's what we always thought, but there is no freedom, which was it was sad to hear, and it was like you were all saying, just very bittersweet to kind of see how there was maybe once a light in Aaron, a drive, and now I feel like he's kind of diminished a little because I feel like maybe he's seeing that there's not as much of a light at the end of the tunnel as I thought.
It was just in the animation too, with the beautiful sea and how bright it was. We never see the Attack on Titan, the show, in kind of that atmosphere, and just to have that with the juxtaposition of Aaron's, for lack of a better term, happy and sad disposition at that point, very Casey Musgraves of him. But it was beautiful, and it made me feel kind of emotional, not like crying or anything, but it just made me really feel his character in that moment, and how it makes me afraid for him and Armin, honestly.
Of what they'll have to endure in the next
and we're built on this idea, like, for these past 3 seasons of like we have to constantly fight, action, kill, whatnot. And we were talking earlier about how is it just going to be that? Do we just have to fight in order to end this war? And I just wonder if there is another way, and maybe the memories that Aaron's getting, maybe that will help find another way rather than just a violent form.
For sure.
So I don't know.
Real quick, before we get into our news, I kind of just want to backtrack to, I call him Baby Titan because he kind of looked like a baby, like the way he was positioned. I personally got really choked up on this moment because, for so long as just like an anime specifically viewer or even a manga reader, you grow to really hate Titans because they're the enemy, they're being violent towards all these people. But in the last few episodes, and even kind of, at the beginning of this season when we learn, Titans are humans, you really start to feel. But I feel like after really in these last 2 episodes seeing what these patriots go through before they become Titans really like tugs on your heartstrings. And so when I saw the baby Titan, I was like, oh, this is devastating. And
oh, sorry, I just had a random thought. I was like, what if Faye, like, what if she I mean, not that it would ever happen. Sorry, it was totally
what if she was
perfect.
like secretly alive?
Well, secretly alive, or like if she were a Titan, but she did get killed. So I was like, never mind. Sorry, but the thought came in my head.
Who knows?
You never know.
Who knows?
You could still inject one. Maybe she was still. You never know.
I think that was also. I mean, it should have been obvious, but I think it was one of those really like hit on the head realization moments where you're like, wow, the Marleyan government is still turning people into Titans.
Yeah.
And it's just devastating knowing, like I said, the trauma that they go through before they actually get made into a Titan. So it was really sweet watching Aaron, again, his changed character, sparing that Titan's life as opposed to Flock, who's like, we gotta kill him, because that's all he ever knew, you know? So I love seeing this kind of new changed character in Aaron with the newfound knowledge that he has.
No, no, it's just like the viewers are like Aaron is basically feeling how we're feeling, which is what we just said. So
For sure.
it's interesting how the viewers and the characters feel the same emotions.
Any final thoughts on this episode before we go into our news, guys?
I'm excited for when they, reach the Marley government and, tear it up.
Tear it up.
Someone just in the chat, Green Chan MMD, just brought up, didn't Annie turn into a Titan? And I'm like, bring Annie. Annie just needs to be in season
Annie
4.
back.
Yeah, I
That's
was wondering what happened to
requirement.
her anyway. Like, come on, we need more.
She's sleeping, right? Isn't she like?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they like have
Slumber,
her.
but we need more.
That's a requirement. I know not really prediction, but that's a requirement for me. Annie season 4.
Me too.
There are characters that need to come back ASAP.
Yes.
All right.
Please.
All right, everyone, let's get into our news and gossip.
Yes. So I'm really excited about it. So again, I was oblivious. I was like, wait a minute, season 4? So we're going to have season 4, which is really exciting. But which studio? We're not quite sure. There's been rumors, and I know Veronica knows more about that, but this studio will change. What do you have to think about that?
Well, as of right now, I don't think there has been any confirmation that Wit Studio will no longer be animating Titan. I think it's just been rumors and speculation. Some people have said Production IG will take it over, which if that's the case, that's not too big of a change because I think Production IG owns Wit, or it's the other way around. So it's the same house essentially. So that's pretty good there. It's kind if these rumors are true, it's kind of nerve-wracking too because this anime is gorgeous. I don't even think I mentioned how gorgeous the last scene was with the ocean.
Absolutely.
Beautifully animated. And, for the past however many years, the past 3 seasons, we've trusted Wit Studio to do a great job animation-wise with this show. And so it's kind of nerve-wracking, like, oh, it's the last season. Oh, it might change studios. Is the animation going to be as up to par as it's been?
Yeah.
Right. So, animators have a tough job, though. I give them so much respect. It is always, that initial fear of like, oh my gosh, is it going to look completely different if they change animation studios? But like I said, IG and Wit are not too far off.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll look even better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My eyes will have to adjust either way. Whenever it gets glossy, I'm like,
It does.
ooh.
That
The
does-
glassy
It is
eyes.
hard because that completely it can potentially change the entire tone of an anime, and not just talking about Attack on Titan, but we've seen it in other animes for sure.
I just want to give a shout out to Alexinator9000, who says, Wit Studio has already animated some scenes that would happen in season 4, so I think they're planning on continuing. I would think so too. Like, if they had another 10 seasons of this show, I'd be like, okay, maybe we need a break. But if it's the last season, I could see, maybe wanting to just take it to the end.
Yeah, and
For
just make
sure.
every episode, like, not that every episode this season didn't hit, but, like, make every episode,
If
like,
it's the last
yeah.
one,
top
Knock it out
notch.
of the
Just show us something every single episode. Give me the action, the tears, the blood, all of it.
and no filler.
No
Also,
filler.
I know, because in case all of you watching and listening don't know, we are all anime only, and none of us have read the manga.
Right.
So when I heard initially that the 4th would be the final season, I was shocked at first. I was like, wait,
Right.
what? Because I thought, there was so much more manga. I
Right.
just thought they were stopping. But I guess apparently they're on the... no spoilers if you're reading the manga, but you are free to tell us in the comments if they are on the final
If the
chapter,
manga's
I believe.
ending soon?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think
I know
it'll...
Carrie reads the manga, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or she's a little bit.
Yeah, that should, if the manga is ending, I think it might be on the final chapter. If that's the case, then I'm like, okay, I can see the 4th season being the ending season.
But I feel like we just got so much information this season, so I'm so
How
shocked.
is it going to pan out next
I'm
season?
so shocked
Yeah.
that I feel like there's even more information that they could do for more seasons to come. So it's bittersweet, as we've said earlier in this after show.
Well, speaking of so much information that could possibly go on next season, let's actually get into some predictions for what we think will happen.
Oh,
Your
gosh.
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Who wants to go?
Okay. It's the last season.
I'll go.
Blink, blink.
The chat says, this shout out to International Lesbo again.
Hey.
The manga isn't finished yet, so maybe the manga's going to continue, but they just decided to kind
stop
of,
the anime.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which is sad. It's kind of a bummer. So it's kind of like, but you still have all this thing. So that makes me nervous a little bit, because are you going to really tie up and make this last season like the best it's ever been? Because it deserves to
I
be.
need it to be. Yeah.
I think Annie's gonna come back and wreck some stuff
Stuff
up.
up.
Yeah. And what do you think, Jamie? I don't know.
I agree with you about Annie, because I was wondering this just a couple days ago, last Sunday. But I was like, yeah, where is Annie? So I'm excited to see her this season. I'm also excited to see Armin, more in his Titan form, but I do feel like there's going to be a death of someone that we love. But I am going to hope that it's not Levi. Also, I'm just going to put this out there. This could be so wrong, but I like far-fetched predictions. Okay. So, what if Armin is, a royal, too? He's blonde. I feel like they're all
All
blonde.
the blondes are royal.
All the blondies are royals. So if you're blonde, you're royalty. But
that's
we're all
problematic.
royalty. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there too, just because we don't know as much about his parents.
You are so right, though.
Think about it. He just might be somebody special that we never knew. And then also, we know Mikasa's parents were killed, but it's was there another reason behind it? I want more other than just Aaron's parents. But that's it with my far-fetched predictions.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Chibi Sphere in the chat, who is saying final arc, not chapter. So thank you for the clarification on that. Kind of going back to what you were saying, Ollie, about linear timelines and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious if reincarnation exists in this world. Because they keep saying stuff like history repeating itself, all these people who have these memories, history repeating themselves. They could just be saying that because, they have the memories and they know it repeats itself. Or with, Aaron Kruger knowing Mikasa and Armin, what if it's just
Aaron is Aaron.
Aaron is Aaron.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That'd be
Reincarnated,
insane.
and he came back as Aaron Yeager to try and save everyone.
And those memories are memories of his past. Yeah.
It could be a destiny thing or
that's
something.
so cool though.
Yeah.
I'm very curious if that's the case, because that thing has me mind boggled on how do you know about Mikasa and Armin? They're not born yet. They're not born for years.
And Aaron Kruger was someone that was go inside the walls and create a family. Maybe somehow he knew how to get himself back into the world. I don't know.
It could, this anime could do anything, and I'll
Yeah.
just fully accept it. That's the great thing about anime. I will accept everything. So, you know what, everyone, again, thank you so much for tuning into the Attack on Titan after show. What an epic conclusion. We had such a great time covering this season. Ollie, where can the fans find you on social media?
Hey everyone, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at Ollie Dreamer. So follow me, please.
Nice. All right. I love the shameless plugs. You can find me on Twitter at It's Jamie Gray, or on Instagram at Jamie Gray, Jaimi.
Hey everyone, Veronica Valencia here. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at It's Me, Veronica_V. Be sure to also follow our show at ABTV Anime on Twitter. We post a lot of news, especially right now regarding Anime Expo. We'll be posting news, I'm sure, about Attack on Titan. If you want to hear all things anime and to keep up to date with our show, be sure to follow that. Again, thank you so much for tuning in with us. We were so excited to cover the show, and we'll see you beyond the wall. Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.